Hello and welcome to the Politics of the Church and Gospel Ministry, a series that may or may not get us sued by the Pope. Now, I realize that sounds a bit cynical, but let's be honest, sometimes the only difference between a church and a daytime soap opera is the soundtrack. Today, we're diving headfirst into the murky waters of church politics. We're talking power dynamics, unspoken rules, and the fine art of navigating the egos of those who claim to speak for a higher power. Buckle up, because we're about to explore the 8 golden rules for dealing with pastors, gospel ministers, and church leaders at large. Think of these rules as your spiritual self-defense class, because in the house of the Lord, things can get surprisingly unholy. All right, let's kick things off with a truth that might sting a little. Nobody in the church has your best interests at heart quite like you do. Yes, even that kindly old usher who always remembers your name while simultaneously judging your hat. Now, I'm not saying everyone at church is out to get you, but let's just say they're not exactly losing sleep over your spiritual journey. They've got their own issues to deal with, like that whole being a good person thing, which, let's be honest, can be a real-time commitment. So, while you're busy trying to find your place in the choir loft, just remember that everyone else is also engaged in their own personal game of spiritual Tetris. And in this game, your needs are rarely the high score they're aiming for. Speaking of games, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the pastor in the pulpit. Everyone's chasing their own interests. Now, I'm not saying your pastor is just in it for the collection plate money and the free potlucks, but then again, those casseroles can be pretty persuasive. The point is, everyone, from the choir director to the youth group leader, has their own motivations, ambitions, and, dare I say, agendas. And look, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. We all have our own paths to walk, even if those paths sometimes lead directly to the dessert table at the church social. So, the next time you find yourself roped into helping with the annual bake sale, remember this: you're not being selfish, you're just playing the game. And maybe try to snag an extra slice of that double chocolate cake while you're at it. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear. I'm not saying all church leaders are manipulative, power-hungry charlatans. Some of them are genuinely good people who also happen to be manipulative and power-hungry. The point is, dealing with those in positions of authority within the church requires a certain level of caution. It's a delicate dance, like trying to politely decline a fruitcake from your great aunt. You want to be respectful, but you also don't want to end up with a year's supply of unwanted candied fruit. So, when you're interacting with pastors, gospel ministers, or anyone else wearing a robe and holding a microphone, remember to keep your wits about you. Trust your instincts, and if something feels off, it probably is. And whatever you do, don't accept any fruitcake. Chapter 4. Rule number 4. There's always someone getting played. Spoiler alert, it might be you. Let's talk about exploitation, shall we? Because let's face it, the church, for all its talk of love and charity, can be a breeding ground for it. Think of it like a multi-level marketing scheme, but instead of selling essential oils, they're selling salvation. Now, I'm not saying your church is running some elaborate pyramid scheme where the pastor gets a new car every time you recruit a new member. But then again, have you seen the pastor's car lately? The truth is, in any church event, there's always someone getting used. It might be the volunteers working tirelessly for free, or the congregation being guilt-tripped into donating more than they can afford. And if you look around and you can't figure out who's being taken advantage of, well, my friend, it's probably you. Chapter 5. Rule number 5. You're only as useful as your last casserole. Here's a harsh reality for you. Your service to the church is often seen as a commodity. Think of it like a spiritual internship where the pay is terrible, the hours are long, and the only perk is the occasional potluck. You might be the backbone of the church, the one who organizes the bake sales, cleans up after the coffee hour, and remembers everyone's birthday. But the moment you decide to take a break, to prioritize your own needs, you'll quickly realize that your place was never really secure to begin with. So the next time you're up to your elbows in dish soap after the annual church picnic, remember this: you're not indispensable. You're a volunteer. not a martyr. And if you're not careful, you'll end up feeling used, unappreciated, and in desperate need of a long vacation, preferably somewhere without a church potluck in sight. Chapter 6. Rule number 6. Don't worry, be happy, unless you're the one cleaning up. Here's a fun fact. The people who are least stressed at a church event are usually the ones in charge. They're not the ones sweating over hot ovens, setting up folding chairs, or dealing with the fallout from the annual three-legged race gone wrong. No, the pastors and church leaders, they're usually too busy basking in the glory of their own sermons or enjoying the endless stream of compliments from well-meaning parishioners. Meanwhile, you're left holding the metaphorical and literal garbage bags. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of a church event, remember this. Take a deep breath, repeat after me, "Not my circus, not my monkeys," and then discreetly slip out the back door. Chapter 7. Rule number 7. Look out for number 1. It's you, in case you forgot. Here's a radical thought. It's okay to put your own needs first, even in the context of the church. I know, it sounds downright heretical. But before you start gathering stones to cast, hear me out. The church often preaches selflessness, sacrifice, and putting the needs of others before your own. And while those are all admirable qualities, they can also be easily exploited. So, the next time you're asked to donate your time, money, or energy to a church cause, don't be afraid to say no. Set boundaries, prioritize your own well-being, and remember, you don't need to be a martyr to be a good person. Chapter 8. Rule number 8. Don't drown trying to save people who can't swim. Let's talk about boundaries, shall we? Because in the church, those lines can get blurrier than a communion wafer in a rainstorm. You're told to love thy neighbor, to forgive those who trespass against you, and to always turn the other cheek. But here's the thing. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to set clear boundaries. You are not obligated to be everyone's spiritual therapist, financial savior, or personal assistant. So, the next time you feel yourself being pulled into the depths of someone else's drama, remember this. You are not a lifeguard. You are not equipped to save everyone. And frankly, it's not your job. Outro, congratulations. You've survived Church 101. So, there you have it, folks. The 8 golden rules for dealing with pastors, gospel ministers, and the often perilous world of church politics. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds terribly cynical. And to that, I say, welcome to the club. But here's the thing. Cynicism isn't the opposite of faith. It's the byproduct of disillusionment. And sometimes, a little dose of reality is exactly what we need to protect ourselves, set healthy boundaries, and navigate the complexities of organized religion. So, go forth, armed with this newfound knowledge, and remember, you can be a good person without being a doormat. And always be wary of anyone offering you free fruitcake. It's never just fruitcake.